turn and look back into the center corridor from this side, you'll notice a completely different view. This view shows the products of the white-tailed deer. Besides eating the meat and wearing the skin, the Indian men and women used every part of the deer possible. They used the shoulder blades for hoes, the jaw bones to shuck corn, the hooves for grain making. Brains were used for leather tanning, antlers were used to punch holes in leather and for making clothing, and if the deer made a sound, the Indian probably would have made a use out of that too. In the left side of the window, you'll see a typical Delaware or Lenape dress. The men wore aprons made from deerskin. When the weather got cool, they would wear leggings made from deerskin. These leggings were very similar to cowboy shacks. They were tied or lashed to the side, and that's what gave it the fringe effect. The women wear skirts that were made from deerskin, and when the weather got chilly, they would wear ponchos made from beaver or bearskin. The only time the Indians preferred to wear moccasins was when the ground was cold or if they were going to be traveling rocky terrain. Directly behind you, in the yellow window, is the art of flint knapping, or methods of flaking. In order to make projectile points, you have to have the right kind of stone, and the best native material in our area happens to be flint, jasper, and quartz that you see on the blocks. The reason the Indians use this kind of stone is that if you hit a piece of flint with a very hard tree cobble, instead of crumbling, it would actually fracture into flat leaf-like pieces called blanks. On the top shelf to the right, you see a hollow blank. The Indian would then take a stone and a deer antler and begin to chip or hammer away to thin the piece of flint, and this is known as indirect percussion. The final step is called pressure flaking. A piece of rawhide was put in the palm of their hand so they would not cut themselves. The projectile point that you see on the yellow sticks in the center of the window show different shapes of points representing different time periods. To someone who is not an amateur archaeologist, the most interesting thing about this is that the first 3 points from the left are actually spear points. Only the 2 on the right are arrowheads, which means the Indians never had a bow and arrow until approximately 2,000 years ago, or the time of Christ. Before that, they used spears. By now you're probably wondering where the Indians got the name Delaware. And while you're looking at some of the display cases in this room, the explanation is given to you. Delaware is an English name given to the Indians by Sir Thomas West, who was known as the third Lord Delaware, and the discoverer of the Delaware Bay. The Indians living along the banks of the river were therefore called Delaware Indians. However, they had a name for themselves, and that was Lenape. Lenape means original or ordinary people. Because one of the oldest archaeological sites in the United States happens to be a Delaware water gap, and because the Iroquois Indians in New York called these people grandfather, archaeologists tend to believe that the Lenape Indians were one of the first tribes living in this area of the country. Standing in the corner is a mystical creature called Mesingw. The Mesingw was described by the Indians as being a large, hairy, man-like creature who wore a mask that was half red and half black and had copper-colored glowing eyes. His job was to protect the animals of the forest, and he was generally harmless. As a matter of fact, the only time the Indians knew anything was by was that he had a terrible odor. He smelled like rotten eggs or sulfur. What's interesting is that Delaware's description of Mesingw is the very same description the Northwestern American Indian have for a creature that they call Sasquatch, or what many of us today call Bigfoot. So Indians living in opposite ends of the country, never having communicated with each other, believed in the same creature. Kindly step into the next room.